Welcome to the New Little Life podcast. My name is Allison. I'm a lactation consultant, a breast pump expert, and a mom of 3 little boys. Here on the podcast, we talk with real moms and experts about breastfeeding and pumping. This podcast is designed to help you feel supported by other moms who are doing exactly what you're doing, to get tips and tricks on breastfeeding, and learn how to efficiently navigate pumping while going back to work. Welcome back. We have another episode of season 2 where we're really focusing on working moms. Today, we have a really unique guest with us who has a lot of experience, not only personally breastfeeding and pumping as a working mom, but found I'm going to call it a hack to make her life a little bit easier and kind of turned it into a small business. So I'm excited to dive into that a little bit later in this conversation. But let me introduce you to our guest today. Jillian Rothe is the founder, mom, engineer, and lactivist behind Mammaway, bringing confidence and support to new parents in their 4th and 5th trimester pumping journey through functional products and tactical support. Her mission is to share her experience and expertise with as many parents as possible by bringing tactical support and functional products to the market in how we manage breast milk storage and new parent support. Jillian and her partner, Steve, live in Denver, Colorado with their 3 kids. Evelyn and Braden were born in Singapore, and August is their Colorado native. She has a mechanical engineering and international business degree from Michigan Technological, I knew I was going to mispronounce that, University. Can we call that MIT? No.
MTU. There we go.
MTU. Thank you for that. And she was also named Outstanding Young Alumni in 2014 in her early career success. She was featured in Impact Magazine in 2016. The Freeze It Flat was their first patent pending product and was named the Breast Milk Storage Product of the Year in 2022. Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you are officially the first person that got to say that last part out loud. We had to wait until July to be able to announce that last bit. So
I am so impressed with that. Congratulations for one.
Thank you.
Making it all work as a mom and a business owner. I really feel you there. It's a lot. It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes into a bio like that.
Yes. Yeah. It's busy. We're not with lack of things to do.
No, we never are. We never are. Okay. Well, let's just dive in. You have a really cool experience. You have a lot of really good tips and stuff to share with us. So can we kind of just start at the beginning of your kiddos, your breastfeeding, pumping journey? Just like take me back. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I'll start a bit farther back than that because I think it adds to the story. When I was 14, I was one of the many diagnosed with endometriosis. And I was told by my OB as a teenager that I would never have children. Spoiler alert, I did. But so I didn't think I'd have kids. I spent my 20s digging into my career, did not make the perfect Pinterest, nursery like most of my other friends did. And so that career brought me over to Singapore. We were living over there in 2014. And surprise, surprise, ended up pregnant with Evelyn. And so we had about 9 months to figure this out. Oh my God, we're going to be parents. And with that, I had a job that I was on a plane every other week. And so when I went back to work at 8 weeks, I wanted to breastfeed. I was privileged enough to not be raised in a family that uses formula. And so I just assumed that's what you did because that's what I was surrounded with. And so we had the very tactical problem to solve of how do I take this cooler with me? How do I make sure we get it back? And then also to make it even more fun, how do we fit it in our tiny, tiny little Singaporean freezer to make sure that's there for her when she needed to have it? And so, yeah, I was back at work at 8 weeks, hauling a pump and a cooler literally around Asia, and ended up doing that for both her. And then when Braden was born, our second, same thing for him, exclusively breastfed. And with him, I was even back to work even earlier at 5 weeks. So it's just kind of been a part of the way it goes for me.
That's amazing. Yeah. I had a baby in Europe, my 3rd baby. And so I can really relate. We had tiny freezers, things more difficult to find. Okay. I went back to work also in 2014 with my first baby, and I really struggled finding resources and like information on how to pump. So what did you do? What was that like for you back in 2014?
Yeah, so I was working for a Fortune 50 company, it was relatively big. I had a couple of friends that understood the pumping side of things. So I had one or two friends, maybe somewhere in the planet, that had really done it and could help me with some of the basics of like, here's how you get it through your insurance. And here's like the two options of breast pumps I think we had back then.
Seriously, that was it.
Yep. Yeah. So she helped with the basics of it. I had an amazing doula and OB in Singapore. And they helped with like the establishing supply side of it, in making sure that I knew how that worked. I never got full on mastitis. I dealt with clogs and stuff like that because the pump was so much different from the baby. And so they helped me through that hands-on version of things. And I had Singapore has lactation masseuses. And this woman would come to my house for an hour and a half, and she would use it like it was like a credit card, almost like size kind of thing. And she would just scrape anything out like after a long trip to try to help make sure that things were still flowing with that. So it was a lot of support what I could cobble together.
Wow. Very, very interesting. I have heard of some like breast massage specialists like that would do something like that, but I've never actually talked to anyone who like had it done, especially in Singapore.
Amazing.
Very
it's
cool.
Amazing. But yeah, the gear that I had to bring with me, it was, figuring out the pump and the cooler and how do I get through TSA and what, if I'm going to be gone for 2 days versus 5 days, do I freeze it? Do I leave it chilled? That was all kind of trial and error and figured it out as I went.
Let's dive into some of this like travel stuff. So when you're going on a trip, walk me through that breast milk wise, pumping wise.
Yeah. So the absolutely first thing I would do is lay everything out. And and I probably do the same for, my clothes. Like you lay it out and you make sure that like you go through your wardrobe and you're like, I have a shirt, I have a pair of pants, I have the underwear that goes under the pants, and I have socks, like a very visual management of packing. And you do the same for pumping. Put the pieces together, like make a fully functional, stick the flanges on it, stick the duckbills on it, make sure the tubes go all the way to the pump, like make sure you have all of the pieces visually in front of you put together so that when you take it apart and put it in the bag, you're not missing anything. And so you go through and figure out, okay, I would walk through my days, right? So if my day is going to be somewhere with access to a fridge, I probably don't need as many things as a day where I'm going to be, and in my case, I'm going around Manila where there's nothing, right? So I need to bring 2 or 3 sets of things because I'm not going to be able to wash it. And if I am going to be able to wash it, I don't have potable water. And so really walking through your day and figuring out, here's what my schedule is going to be. Here's where my breaks are going to be. And here's what I'm going to need for it to be able to pump throughout the day. And am I going to have to clean things? Where am I going to store things? Do I need ice? Do I need extra baggies? And just really thinking through your day and laying it all out.
It's a lot to navigate and manage. For sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How about traveling through the airports and TSA? And did you ever run into any problems with milk, pump parts, stuff like that?
Yeah. So to speak to it, internationally, it's going to be different in every country. I think your audience is mostly in the U.S.
Mostly in the U.S. Yep.
But okay, so I'll speak to the U.S. market first and foremost. They cannot and should not be harassing you for breast milk. And so when I traveled in the States, it was definitely walking in with the confidence that this is a medical requirement. And so the same, like if you were to treat, like I always went in and gave myself the pep talk that this cooler and this milk it's as if I had crutches with me. And if somebody was trying to take my crutches away, well, then what am I going to, this is a medically required thing that I have with me. It's like medication. And so going in with a confidence of knowing your rights and transporting it is first and foremost, and it shouldn't cause anxiety. The only other piece is really just giving yourself enough time. Yes, you may need to do an extra scan. Yes, it might take a little bit extra time to go through, but everything should be fine, whether it's liquid, whether it's solid. If your ice packs are frozen or not, they shouldn't be able to limit it based on any of those things.
Did they ever have to like test the milk, or did you ever run into any problems where they wanted to tamper with the milk that you were uncomfortable with?
I've had a couple where they wanted to open the bottle and sniff it. I generally tried to keep it liquid just because it's easier to transport when it's liquid and chilled rather than frozen and chance thawing. But I've had a couple that wanted to open the bottles. I always insisted that they put on clean gloves before they touch any of my stuff, because I don't want somebody else's cooties all over my kid's breast milk.
Yeah.
Most of the time they take their little swabs and just kind of wipe the outside, or they've got a machine that they kind of just lay it in, like a little cubby hole thing. So not super invasive, but it was just usually stuff that would just take a bit longer.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you probably had to pump occasionally in the airport or on the plane or something. I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I never used a nursing cover to actually nurse a baby. I only use nursing covers to pump.
This is me too. Yep.
Sitting on a plane, I'd throw a nursing cover on, and whatever nice gentleman was sitting next to me would be like, what's about to go down here? And yeah, you get all set up under there and wiggle around, and then they just get to listen to the calm, soothing pump along with the plane noise.
little milk drips. Did you ever run into any negative comments or just awkward situations?
You get the stares. People that don't understand and don't know are kind of in the, like, I think it's more curiosity of like, what in the world is going on over there? And I was always one that it was, my boobs were like elbows, like, here's my wristwatch, come see it if you want.
Yeah.
I know some people get more self-conscious on that and might be a little bit nervous that they're being judged, but most of the looks were probably because they just didn't know what was going on. More so than anything that had anything to do with me. But what I loved is you get the other moms that know exactly what you're doing, and you get like that fist bump through a look. And that part was just nice.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's the same as your example earlier, someone with crutches or someone with some like medical thing or device. Like I would do a double take and just be like, oh yeah, it's just different than what you normally see. And I think we get that too with pumping, and it can be easy to take it as judgment or as like make you embarrassed. But again, it's people usually just curious or just a double take because it's out of the norm. And I don't think many people really are judging and even if they are, like, you know what, I gotta feed my baby.
Oh, look. Yeah. I think more and more airports are getting nursing rooms, or Mammaway has some amazing pods. I've used those.
I've seen several of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are getting more and more common, definitely more so than when, I was traveling so much and pumping. And so that's nice to see that, like, for the people that are self-conscious or want the private space, that they have that option now. Whereas, before I just, I'm going to sit out in front of everybody and call it a day, whatever.
So you were able to make enough milk for your babies via pumping, correct?
Yes.
Right.
When I was gone, it was definitely, I had oversupply. So I will preface with that. I definitely, it comes with its own pros and cons, but I had oversupply. And so if it got to something where I did have to, leave a bag behind, or if it didn't fit in the cooler, I was okay some trips here and there. But it was definitely making sure we stayed ahead of them.
Did you ever mail breast milk? Like, they have some services where you can mail it.
Yeah, I did. I with Milk Stork. And I have a girlfriend that actually helped test out their international. They do it internationally now. But I had used it with my third. So I didn't have it with the first two. Yeah. But with my third, I was actually on a 9-day trip. And I had my company actually paid for it. And so definitely ask about benefits at your company if they pay for shipping breast milk.
Some companies do, yeah.
They do. And even if they don't have a policy, ask if that's something that they're willing to pay for, which is another funny story when I had to do that. But it's actually relatively easy to use. They send you the box, like, ready to go. There's bags in it, and you can either use those or have the ones that you just filled and swap them out. And then you fill it up. I want to say it was maybe a dozen bags, 10 to a dozen in a box. And then they've got this ice pack that you just like push a little button. It's one of those instant freeze kind of things. And then you take it to, I think it was UPS, and you just drop it off. They've got the labels all ready to go, pre-populated with your address. And my husband got them back. And I think I only had that whole time, I only had like 1 or 2 bags ever leak in that, which wasn't horrible. I mean, for as much as I was sending.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yes, it's wonderful if you don't want to haul it back through an airport.
What were your favorite bags to use especially to freeze milk in? I know you have a lot of experience with freezing breast milk.
I tried a bunch of them.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I would say there's some that are more sturdy than others. The Spectra and the Medela ones are nice in that regard. Lanzano and the Up and Up from Target are kind of taller. So if you have a limited space, those worked better to brick. So I think I've done like 70 and 73 ounces in a milk brick, like you stick them in a gallon Ziploc and line them up. So if you're really looking to compact more milk, the Lanzano and the Up and Up ones are definitely better for that. But Medela and Spectra make some pretty good stand-up ones.
Yeah, they're really thick around the sides. They're real. They look leak proof. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then the issue you get with those stand-up ones is when you lay them flat, they don't actually lay flat. They lay in more of like a triangle shape, and that's what causes some of them to break. Is they don't freeze evenly. So that skinny bit at the top is going to freeze sooner than the fat part at the bottom. And if you've ever frozen a tray of ice and you see that it kind of gets that first layer, but the inside is still water, that's really what's happening to your milk. And then that bottom kind of starts to blow out. And so those are the bags that tend to leak, is when it's in that freezing process and they're not freezing uniformly.
I hadn't really thought about that part of the freezing process and that being a culprit for why some of these bags are leaking. So it actually is important, not just for convenience and for storing milk, that you freeze it flat. It will freeze better. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that was the dark engineering science that went into us trying to figure out how do we make sure that these bags never break. And it was, we need them to freeze uniformly. We need it to freeze consistently. And so we added that compression to kind of squish it flatter to make sure that it's freezing consistently across the whole bag, and to make it kind of as thin as possible, so you don't have that big fat bit at the top, or you don't have curves in it. And then it's just one bit of freeze.
It probably thaws a little bit more evenly as well, I would think.
Yep. They still fit in, like some people use bottle warmers. They'll still fit in there. We were really fancy and used a coffee mug full of hot water.
That's exactly what I did.
Or a coffee mug in the fridge a couple hours before. Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. So you've done quite a bit of research. I mean, like freezing milk and testing some of that stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was like the initial bit, it was kind of just the back of our minds. Like, this is just kind of how we knew fluid dynamics worked. We didn't actually put a lot of science and math to it. But then once we developed the product, I actually was curious, like, how much of a difference does it make? Especially in like a Lanzano or an Up and Up bag that already, lays flat, does it actually make a difference? And so I dorked out and got a ruler out and I started measuring, like, how much of a difference does this really make? And it was eye-opening to see that.
I'm a little bit of a scientific data nerd as well. So I would love to know any more details you have about freezing milk. You know what I mean? Because this is like right up my alley, is just like, tell me why this is important. What things have I not considered before? I think that kind of helps. I don't know. It just helps make the whole process easier when you understand some of the deeper stuff to freezing milk.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it works the same way ice cubes and water bottles would. If you've ever played sports and chucked a water bottle in the freezer, and if you've ever filled that water bottle like straight up to the top and then put the lid on and then stuck it in the freezer and it kind of like blows out, what I'm talking about with the water bottle, or it pops the top off. Some of that has to do with, if there's still air in it, if it's just the liquid, and air and liquid freeze differently, and one will expand, one won't. It's that same theory applies to milk. And so what you want to be careful to do is you don't want to have air in the bag, because air is going to expand differently than a liquid when you're freezing it. So you want to try to get all those air bubbles out, is kind of the first one of, some of the dork science of it. And then the other one, like I mentioned, just making sure that it's consistent and flat. And you don't have that triangle effect of laying stand-up bags down, just to make sure that it's the same.
Have you found any tricks to get air out of the bags? I know that was always like one of the hardest things for me.
Yes, it's, I think I have. I feel like I made a video of it at some point. Otherwise, I need to make another one. But
I'll post it in the show notes if you can find it. I'll
see if I can find it for sure. but I would do, I don't know, 4 to 6 ounces. I did a survey at one point to see what moms were freezing, and most moms do 4 to 6 ounces in a bag. In case you were wondering where you fall on the spectrum. So, you throw 4 ounces in a bag, and it's hard to, I'm going to see if I can articulate this, like just speaking, but like you'd kind of stand it upright. And then I would kind of put my pinky finger on the top of the milk, but I'm holding the top of the bag with my index and thumb. Yep. And then I would kind of lay it down and use my pinky finger to kind of push the air out as you go up. And then once you get to the top, you can kind of close the Ziploc bit of it. But you kind of use the counter to help you do it.
Yeah, I've used the counter as well before too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down on there. Maybe that's the next thing I need to make, is something that just like easily does that for you.
How can we get this air out? Because I always worried about pushing it like too hard and spilling the milk, or because when you have extra air in the bag and the milk freezes, it looks kind of weird too, almost kind of like a freezer burnt kind of thing. So that was always hard for me to get all the air out.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Gosh, it's so interesting. I feel like storing breast milk, I usually give the recommendation of like 2 to 4 ounces in a bag of frozen milk, but I think it really depends on what you're doing. I think if you are a stay-at-home mom and you're only feeding frozen milk occasionally, you do want smaller quantities because you're probably just making one bottle. I work mostly with working moms, like, moms like you who are feeding larger amounts. And then it makes more sense. Like you don't need a million 2-ounce bags in your freezer when you're going to be gone all day and we're going to be using this milk. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to hear you say that 4 to 6 ounces is kind of where you found most moms were freezing their milk.
Well, so here's another, I don't know if you've ever tried this or heard this, but say you freeze everything in a 6-ounce bag, right? Because you want to maximize what you're supposed to put. You really don't want to go over 6 ounces in a bag. They're not made for that. But say you freeze 6 ounces in a bag and you only need 2 ounces. Take that frozen bag out, stick it on a cutting board, and use a knife and just cut a third of it off. Just cut a chunk of that off, and maybe cut it in 2 pieces so it fits in a bottle. You've seen like maybe on those trays that freeze little, 1 and 2 ounce things. You don't really need that. So cut off how much you need, and then put the rest in a regular Ziploc. Stick it back in the freezer.
You just blew my mind. Why did I never think of that? But again, you have to freeze it flat and even to do that.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Why is this not all over the internet? Oh my.
Because I've got 3 kids. I'm trying.
That's like the best frozen milk hack I have ever seen.
Yeah. You don't need to do 1 and 2 ounce little nubs, because here's the thing I don't love about those trays.
I think we're going to have the same thought here. So please.
Yeah, not to dog on trays, but like if you've ever thought about leftovers, like air touching your milk is what creates freezer burn. And so when you have cubes or 1 ounce, I don't know, little cylinder things, when you have those, it's more apt to get freezer burn faster. And so when we have these recommendations that say, oh, it's good in the freezer for, up to a year, well, it's probably not going to last a year getting that freezer burn on it. You want to keep as little air as possible touching your food, and breast milk is food. And so that you wouldn't put leftovers in the freezer and just, I don't know, let that bag sit open, so why would you want that much air touching your milk? And so to just leave it in 6-ounce bags and then cut off whatever little bit you need whenever you need it. And then you're really only like letting that little bit on the end be susceptible to air for a minute. Like it doesn't make sense to me. I
would put it in a new, like the part that was open, I would put it in a new bag. Is that what you would do too?
Or just stick it in a Ziploc bag. I mean, it's not any, so by the time you've handled it and you're physically touching it, those bags aren't sanitized anymore. And you're in your home, you are not actually going to sanitize anything. As much as you boil it in water, it's not technically sanitized. And breast milk is very, very tough. It's tougher than you think. And so to cut it off and put it in a Ziploc bag for a day or 2 or 3 until you need another little 1 ounce nub off there, it's just fine. It's perfectly fine.
Best idea I've ever heard. Seriously.
I mean, aside from freezing it flat in the first place, I mean, come on, second best.
Well, you
idea.
kind of have to do that if you want to be able to cut and know you're cutting off 2 ounces. You know what I mean? It has to be flat and even, which is, okay. I want to ask you more questions about going back to work and a mom, but I feel like this is a really good place to tell us a little bit about Freeze It Flat, because you got to tell me what you invented and why you invented that and what it does.
So Freeze It Flat, don't forget it was a home hack that we made when we were in Singapore. So I mentioned our tiny, tiny little Singaporean freezer. We made it first and foremost as a way to try to figure out how do we fit as much stuff in here as possible. And so we made it as a space-saving device. I've gotten messages from donors that, they're fitting almost twice as much in coolers now with the formula shortage, which just, my heart is so happy hearing that. So we actually went to the Japanese dollar store. It's called Daiso. If anybody's familiar, it is the most amazing store on the planet, I swear to God. But we cobbled together our own version of the Freeze It Flat. So it was 2 plates, and then we figured out like kind of these elastic straps they had that worked better than rubber bands to really just make that compression the way we wanted it. And for our first kid, we joked that Evelyn was problem identification, Braden was product development, and Gus was our sales and marketing. So like the product has evolved with our children in trying to make it better and tweak it and modify it. And so for Ev, it was this really cobbled together home hack. And then we had some friends that were in the same phase of life and said, can you make me one? Oh, sure, why not? So while we were in Singapore, we were kind of just making them as people asked for it. So when we moved back to the States in 2018, we were getting enough of those requests that we're like, okay, well, maybe we should actually like make this into a thing. And so as anyone would do, we threw a 12-ton hydraulic press in our garage. Super normal.
Of course. You're also an engineer. So
yes. So that was a super normal part for us. And we got a steel rule die, which is it's a really fancy cookie cutter, if you will, and started punching out this design that we made for it. I was hand sewing straps. I got a sewing machine and we're hand making these things back in 2018. And so then since then, it's evolved even more. We get customer feedback that has been so helpful in trying to figure out the design of how it should work and what do you guys need. And now we have actually just got it like 2 weeks ago. We have full silicone straps that hold it together. We have an injection mold, which makes it look like a really, really fancy professional, thing that you would get. And so it's kind of been this business on accident, made a thing for ourselves, and turns out other people are loving it. And so in 4 years of doing, this development work, we've had over 1,000 orders, and I've only had 3 returns ever, which is really speaks to like, okay, we're doing something that's helping people. And that's the end goal. Help as many parents not have to stress over their freezer. You have so many other things with a new baby. And if I can help this one little bit, that's absolutely what I want to do.
That's amazing. Yeah. Where do you have a website? Is that where you do most of your sales? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have freezeitflat.com. That'll redirect to mammaway.com. And it's just our Shopify site to buy direct from us. I've got, if this was on video, you would see our assembly department right behind me here. My kids help with dropping things off at the post office and putting stickers on things, and they love it. But then as of, I think it's a week and a half now, as of the tail end of June, we're on Amazon. And so I'm totally stoked about that. And if you look at pictures of it, it's the black one with the white straps. You'll know it's us. So try to keep it prominent and consistent in the pictures of it.
That reminds me, I've seen a couple other products like this. Are you dealing with like some copycats, some kind of like off-brand stuff?
Yeah. So there's trays like that you can kind of lay it flat, but that doesn't have the compression, which is the big piece that really makes this whole thing work.
Yeah.
And then there is one individual that has a white and blue one that looks similar, But the form and function, the material is completely different. It's probably my biased opinion, but it's not the same. You're not going to get the same out of it. And that one is also made by a man. This one is made by a mom. Nothing against men. I'm married to one, but he hasn't lived it, and I have. And so anything you get from me and anything you come to, our website, you get me. And I want to help, anything else that goes along with this. I was messaging a customer this morning. She's going on a work trip and talking about how to get through some of the stuff with TSA. And here's how it goes.
Yeah, this is hard for me too. I see this a lot in the breast pump world as well. Someone will, a startup or a mom will put a lot of effort, and their mom's like you, they have degrees, like you're an engineer, like this is awesome. Will put a lot of time and effort into developing a product that they know works and that they know works well, and that they've tried and used, and they came up with a solution for their own problem. And then others will take the idea and make a much cheaper version of it and try and sell that. And it's just not the same. And I think you can kind of get that in any kind of product that we're talking about in the mom world. There is always, I don't know if you could call it a knockoff, like cheaper option, but they are almost always not as good. And they almost always have 0 to no customer service. They're just not as good. And I've seen the product that you're talking about that's similar to yours, and I'll tell you that yours is better. Yours is much better, but it was more thought through, and it was intentional. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a quick business strategy. Like, this is a product to help moms, and you're running a small business surrounding that. I don't know. I feel that really deeply because I can relate a little bit. And it's just the world of business, especially as an entrepreneur, is difficult. And I didn't realize some of these challenges before I kind of started my own business and doing these things. It makes a difference. Support small businesses if you can. And often you're going to get better products, better service, and serve the lactating and parenthood community much better in the process.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's been a lesson and a learning curve. And I'm thankful for what I've learned in the process, for sure. But yeah, there's some crosshairs. And we're gonna, now that we're on Amazon, definitely have some plans in place to try to figure out how to bump that other one out of the way, because it doesn't do parents a service when they think they're getting mine and they think they're getting me, and then they don't.
Yeah,
so they need the support. We need things easier, not harder.
I totally agree. And I see this with breast pumps all the time. Can I get this cheaper option, or do I have to spend the money for the nicer one? And I'm like, well, you're kind of going to get what you pay for. You know what I mean? And
actually, it's the same price. I've got mine on Amazon. 2 cents cheaper than his right now.
Okay.
So,
no.
That's just done.
Okay. I would love to know about, you had a short maternity leave with your kiddos, 5 weeks and 8 weeks. That's crazy.
Yes.
Did you feel like ready to go back at that point?
And I know everybody has a different spectrum on this, right? Like, so I have zero judgment on what everybody else feels. I was in the, I can't wait to get back to an office and talk to grownups.
Yep.
Like that was me. That was my experience. And so for my daughter, I had a very, very supportive boss. And with the travel schedule, I didn't want to come back and be on a plane the next day, right? So we worked out a deal, and this is something I would absolutely encourage, moms to do, is, find something that works for you, that works for your sanity. But I came back to work at 8 weeks, and I think I did like 3 days a week for like a month and a half, where I'm on email, I'm on phone calls, I'm available, but I'm not traveling yet. And so I did this kind of like ease back into work setup. With leave in the States, you have 12 weeks. And that can be used in 15-minute increments. And I don't know that a lot of people realize that. They think they need to use the whole 12 weeks all at once, and then, it's gone. But, with the right conversation with an employer and seeing what's available, I did the ease back in piece, and I used pieces of it at a time. And then by the time I was back 5 days a week, I've already kind of gotten some things started. It's not full on go from an off switch to an on switch. With my second, we had an annual conference that I just didn't want to miss. I had people that were coming globally that were going to be there that I hadn't met yet. And so I took Braden and flew from Singapore to Nashville for this conference. My mom came down to Nashville and she sat in the hotel, like across the parking lot from my office. And so she watched him during the day. I would come back at lunch, drop off what I had, go back to the conference. It was not easy. I don't recommend it if you have alternate options, by all means. But I had the privilege to have my mom come down and be able to help with that. So we took advantage, and she actually flew back to Singapore with me to help taking him home. So my dad flew from Singapore to Nashville with me. My mom flew back, and we kind of broke that up. We actually got stuck in Tokyo. We had a flight delay. And so we actually got stuck in Tokyo overnight trying to get back to Asia after that, which is fun with a 6-week-old. But on the bright side, he got his passport stamped in 3 different countries by the time he was 6 weeks old. So if you want to look at the silver lining, fun stories of it.
It's fun to look back on. I don't know how fun it would be to look back on all of that. Yeah. That's just crazy. And then with your third one, did you go back to work after your third, or did you transition into something new?
We had just moved to Colorado when I was 7 months pregnant. I had every company and every boss is different, right? And so I didn't have the luxury of doing the ease back into it setup for that one. So I actually took the whole 4 months straight, which drove me nuts. But when I went back for that one was back at 4 months on a plane for 9 days. And so I left my husband with 3 kids, and one of them 4 months old and breastfeeding. And he's a champ and amazing in a whole lot of ways. But yeah, I left my husband with 3 kids and a cooler of breast milk, or a freezer full of breast milk. And that was one of the times that I shipped it back.
So did you start pumping? When did you start pumping in your breastfeeding kind of experience, knowing that you were going to have to go back to work in all 3 of these scenarios?
So I will say I started expressing at about 37, 38 weeks. And so I started doing the hand expression of colostrum before the kids even showed up. Obviously there's, the asterisk, doctor's approval, all those things that go with it. But then actually I would get a haka in the hospital still on. And so it was very, very early on. And I would actually get out a hand pump first thing in the morning, when your hormones are highest and milk production's the highest, and try to pump and see if I could get a couple ounces every morning, aside from whatever they would eat. And so I started a freezer stash kind of day one. And we were encouraged by our doulas to put your boobs on a schedule, not the baby. And so if the baby's sleeping for 4 or 5 hours, let him sleep. But make sure that you're pumping or you're expressing and I would do it every 2.5 to 3 hours, just in case I forgot or something happened and now it's 3.5 hours or something like that. But I would set an alarm, and every 2.5, 3 hours, see what I could get out and start making that freezer stash, knowing that I would go back.
That's an interesting idea. Put your breasts on a schedule, not the baby. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And this is an excellent example of how your goals and what you're going to be doing long-term, like going back to work, what you need, affect how the first part goes. Because a lot of times, I'll encourage moms to wait to pump. Let's really get breastfeeding going here. And then we'll figure out how to add in the pump and get you set up for going back to work. But I think this is a great example of you just kind of knowing your goals. Okay, so when I go back to work, I'm leaving for almost 2 weeks, and we got to have milk. You know what I'm saying? And so for you, starting a little bit earlier made the most sense. And it sounds like you did it in a great way, once a day, just kind of whittling at it away 1 to 2 ounces at a time, to keep it not so overwhelming. I like how you approached it, based on the goals that you had specifically.
Yep, exactly. And my story will not fit for everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's very much not going to fit for everybody, but and I've noticed with having 3 of them, you have the first one and you figure it out, and you have the second one, and there's this like, okay, is it going to be the same? Is it going to be different? Okay, it was different. And then you have the third one. You're like, okay, which one of those two is he going to be like? Oh no, he's got his own. Okay, we got a third round that's different. Like every baby is different. And I mean, even in my story, I've never used formula. I've only breastfed or pumped. And all three of mine were wildly different. My daughter wasn't full on without a nursing shield for 4 months. My first son, he was pretty good. He latched on right away. He was probably my best immediate one. But he ended up having to get a tongue tie revision at 2 months old, started from scratch all over again. And then my third, probably about 6 weeks, same thing. We did the tongue tie revision, and he was a little bit younger, so he didn't have as much of a learning curve the second time around. But I've told people that I've got 3 kids and I've learned how to breastfeed 5 times. Because it's just different. And, you keep trying things. I like, even with my third, I had a lactation consultant that was hands-on, like, let's figure this out. So you don't get to a point where it just is necessarily there. Like, keep trying stuff, figure out what works for you. And if that works, keep doing that. And if it doesn't work, try something else.
Yeah. That I've had a very similar experience. All 3 of mine were different, and you just kind of had to figure it out again. There were parts that were easier being a second and third time mom, but some parts I felt like a brand new mom. I'm called a lactation consultant, a friend, in the first week. And I'm like, come over right now. I'm melting down and I don't know anything about babies and you have to help me. He was like, okay, I'll be over. Just take a chill pill. But as a mom, it's hard and it's different every time.
Yeah. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help ever. Like, there is a village here, and it takes a village, very much a very, very true thing. And it is there. You don't get too old to ask for help.
You bet. So what kind of pumps did you use? I'd be really interested to know what your favorite pump was, what you've tried, especially since you've been doing this for the last 8 years, you know what I mean? Off and on.
Yeah. It's been a minute. Yeah. I started with the Medela, the pump and style advance, the PISA or whatever you call it. That was kind of I'll say, that was the brick shit house. Like, that was the thing that just did the job. It was very, very sturdy on transport. Then I always had a Harmony, as like a hand pump, and a Haka for early on. I tried the Medela Swing. It didn't have like the suction that I probably needed. And again, this is the caveat of everybody's different, right? Like, I found the Medela had kind of the turbo boost. I just like crank that thing on with a quick session. I loved the Spectra for my third. I had the blue one.
Yeah, the Spectra one.
Is that the one? Okay, I had the blue one. And then that one was nice for middle of the night. It's quieter, like, it didn't wake me up. I loved it for that. I had a baby Buddha, which that one just kicked the Medela one out of the way. Like, I remember I turned it on once and the battery was about dead. And I was like, okay, let's see how much I can get out until this battery dies. I think I got like 4.5, 5 ounces in less than 5 minutes. Like, that is just like, turn it on and go.
It's a strong pump. Yeah. So
you
like the strong section.
Yes. No. Yeah. Joke. So yes, caveat, watch out. Like, that thing will bite you the first time you try it. If you don't expect it. But then I also had Ardo. Theirs was pretty good for like the transportability of it. I liked that one.
Yeah.
What else have I tried? I feel like there's another one in there I'm forgetting, but yeah, I think the favorite ones are Baby Buddha, Spectra, and the Harmony.
And the Harmony is just the hand pump, correct?
Yeah, just the manual one, and Haka. I mean, that I feel like that's the no-brainer that everybody needs, a silicone one, like collection cup.
100%. Especially because I mean, we're talking to mostly working moms here, so we can't deny you need milk when you go back to work, right? And so if nothing else, start like a Haka here and there can give you half an ounce, maybe even 2 ounces at a time. Just freeze it away. And
also, so your working moms, put a Haka in your desk drawer, because for the day, when you forget something, I'm just going to say it because it'll probably happen at some point. Like you can put that thing on as like the permanent suction and at least hand express into that thing if you forget a piece for your pump. And so it's a cheap option to just stick in a desk drawer or just kind of always have with you as something that helps create suction in case you forget a part.
That's an awesome idea. I usually recommend like a Harmony, like a hand pump for that.
Yeah.
But I think even less expensive option would be a Haka. You'll have to do a little more manual work to get the milk out than you would with like a manual pump.
Correct. Yep.
But geez, I mean, that's easy to store and they're so tiny.
Minimalist.
Yes. Ooh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh, that's excellent. All right. As we kind of wrap up here, is there anything else you want to share? And again, we're talking specifically to working moms about either your journey, what helped you the most, any like kind of advice you have for working moms trying to navigate this?
I know I would absolutely great question. And my answer is going to be the same every time. And I know we as moms, we tend to put on our own oxygen mask last. And when it comes to pumping, you need to put it on first. And you need to put it on your calendar and schedule it just as intentionally as whatever meeting you're having with your boss, as whatever meeting you're having with your staff. Of these are the times during the day that I'm pumping. And I think I had it on my calendar as, Medela session 1 and Medela session 2 or whatever. I think I had at one point, I had the Leche League meeting. If somebody was like looking at my calendar, like, well, I don't know, they're not going to ask about that. It's in a weird, different language. But put it on your calendar and make it non-negotiable that this is my 30 minutes. If you need 45 minutes, right? Like if your breasts take longer to empty, if you need 45 minutes, put it on your calendar for 45 minutes. And just really make sure you give yourself the space and the permission and the priority to take care of yourself first. And because I've seen the stress over it, and stressing about your milk supply, I swear to God, is the biggest thing that decreases your milk supply.
Yeah.
And so give yourself the time and give yourself the priority to put it in your schedule and don't negotiate. Sorry, I'm not available. Yeah. Not available. Busy. Does 9:30 work for you instead? And you'd be surprised how many people are like, oh, okay, sure, no problem.
Yeah, it's important. It's also hard. It's really, it takes some time and it's like lost work time. You're kind of still expected to get the same amount of work done, the same amount in your day, but now you have, almost an hour less time than you did before. And I think just kind of coming to terms with that. And I liked what you said, non-negotiable. This is my pumping time and I will not move it. And I get stuff comes up. You have this meeting that has to be at this time. Okay, let's sneak it in a little bit earlier and we can adapt. But I mean,
if you have it on your calendar and it's visual and somebody wants to schedule something and you're just moving your meeting around, it's such a different activity than having to create it. Right? Yeah. Like if somebody schedules over your pumping time, you can reassess your day and say, okay, I'm going to pump before that, or I'm going to pump after that. And here's how it's going to move around. But at least it's there giving you permission that needs to happen today.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so much easier to schedule your day around your pumping than pumping around your day. That causes so much extra like mental load on you every single day that you just we don't have time for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much. I will put a bunch of links down in the show notes for everyone listening. Hopefully we can find some videos. I'm going to make some reels on some of the tips you shared today because they were absolutely awesome. Dynamite. We'll have links, of course. You can check out Freeze It Flat. And I think I even have a coupon code. I think you do. Yeah.
Absolutely put that in there for sure. Absolutely do.
I love it. So thank you again so much, Jill, for taking the time to talk with us today. I learned so much. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, it's so good to see you.
You can find more information about the Pumping for Working Moms program, which is how I work with working moms, down in the show notes too. And we will see you all next time. Thanks.